I want to cover 4 concepts with you today. And the first one is mindset. Mindset's as important as skill set. So I'm going to go through that in a bit more detail later. But if you look at the mindset work, I was involved with 20 CEOs, part of a big study that eventually was published by the Harvard Business Review. And at the end of that, those 20 CEOs said the single biggest thing that determined their success in tough times was their resolve, their belief that they wanted to make it happen. So we're going to cover that in a bit more detail. One of the other key lessons we want to take you through in leading yourself and your family through this is focusing on being in the present and what you can control. So if you look at what actually impacts decision making, it's often anxiety and stress. So if you're overstressed or over anxious, your ability to make high consequence decisions is diminished rapidly. So one of the things we talk about in terms of anxiety, or the research shows anxiety is often worried about things in the future. Depression's often worried about things that have happened in the past or dealing with things in the past, but anxiety is often about things that are happening in the future. And there's lots of things happening in the future, and there's lots of news and lots of confusion and lots of potentials. We've even seen that now. How many months are we going to do this? So living in the present gives you some form of control. Understanding yourself, being in the present and calm. The second thing we're going to focus on is what you can control. And in terms of that, some of that's about defining what are those things in your life are beyond your control and what are things within your control. The person who actually did all the work initially on stress identified the best way to identify a person who's stressed is a person taking control of something they can't control. So we're going to talk about those 2, the mindset and being present and what you can control. We're going to work on those in a bit more detail. The next one we're going to talk about is look after yourself, so you have the energy to encourage others. I've covered that a little bit, but one of the key things about that, and I heard someone describe it the other day, it's the airplane example with the masks. You know, they ask you to put the mask over your mouth first before your children, because if you can't breathe and your child can't breathe, then you've got a major problem. You've got to breathe first to be in a position to look after them. And that's the same here. And a lot of leaders at the moment aren't looking after themselves. They're working long hours, lots of fatigue, but unless they're doing that, and the best example of that is Prince Charles looked after himself for 7 days. Boris Johnson kept pushing through and he's in intensive care. The last concept I want to get across it's a very important concept, this one. And if you take nothing away from this webinar except this, it's about resetting to zero. And the really important thing about that is organizations, when the context changes rapidly, organizations and individuals who reset to zero and say, how I'm going to be successful in that context, are always going to be more successful. I'll give you a brief example. One of our clients has chemical plants all around the world. We're on the phone to them the other day. One plant manager is describing that social distancing is a nightmare for him. It's extra work, it's policing, it's all these other things that he has to do. The other manager, a manager in Canada, both of them in North America, the manager in Canada has seen social distancing as the key way to innovate, to unpack and unplug behaviours that have been there for 20 years that she wanted to deal with. And so they've built a whole pile of innovations because of social distancing, more innovations around safety and efficiency. And she sees that some of those will actually stay post social distancing. So if you look at that second manager, she's reset to zero. The other manager is complaining about the life that they've lost and the situation that they've lost. And they'll be talking about that for months.